Are you ready? I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Jelpy and Ghosty and Chip.
We're in the middle of a giant disconnection from the internet service provider that we pay $100 a month to. So,
but I mean, it might have to do with the weather. We have really, really bad weather. We live in Maine, and it's a pretty nasty storm out. So that might have something to do with it. I don't know. I really don't know anything about it. I don't know if lines are underground or above ground or what.
Sure.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about bloody voodoo dolls.
No, we're not. We're talking about Propagandhi.
Yeah, but Bloody Voodoo Dolls is the one that asked for Propagandhi.
I sure.
And I don't know if Bloody Voodoo Dolls, how they identify. So I always assume that it's a girl, but I don't really know.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm gonna go with that. So she picked this song.
I think they is always safe.
They is always safe. Yeah, that's true. They picked this song, Propagandhi Without Love. It's funny because some of the, like, if their stuff clears at the beginning of the month on Trello, on Patreon, and then sometimes it's toward the end of the month that their song actually gets posted. So they'll be like, "I've changed my mind." so they changed their mind and they went with this song. So I'm curious to hear the difference and see. I don't know what the original was, so I won't know if I like this one better than the original.
Yeah. So this is Propagandhi Without Love. For timely topical political commentary, you can hit me up in Middle America with Vin and Sori. There's supposed to be a Democratic debate tonight. I don't think we're going to watch it, though, because our internet isn't up yet, so we shall see.
Somebody said, can you post a video of, like, what you guys do, like, right before you start recording? Because nothing to post. It's happening right now on camera.
Hey, can I have some of that
water?
Scrumptious water that you have?
Yeah, you can. I just put a straw because I have lipstick on.
I've become more and more, I'm kind of becoming like addicted to water like I was with Pepsi.
You use the straw. How cute!
Alright, let's go.
Alright, ready? Go.
Nature ends in tragedy, and I was the first to finally fade away from my grandfather's memories. Well, how long till the day my memories of him finally fade away? Dissolving into gray is breathing just the ticking of an unwinding clock, counting down the time it takes for you to comprehend the sheer magnitude of every single precious breath you've ever wasted. I did everything I could. I wandered with the universe to take my life instead of hers, but no amount of money, drugs, and tears could keep her here. What purpose did her suffering serve? Is breathing just the ticking of an unwinding clock, counting down the time it takes for you to comprehend the sheer magnitude of every single precious breath you've ever wasted. Misery, so much indifference, just so much suffering. We can become tempted by appeals to hatred. This world ain't nothing more than
That was sad.
Well,
Meaningful and sad.
well, I think one of the things that makes this song unique is that he actually comes to a conclusion that is a positive one.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that about it. You know, he's dealing with the... If you listen to the first half, maybe even the first 3/4 of the song, you might accuse him of nihilism. You know, like, everything I did, bargain with the universe, people are going to die, yada, yada, yada. And then it talks about how that line is breathing just the ticking of an unwinding clock, counting down the time that it takes for you to comprehend the sheer magnitude of every single precious breath you've ever wasted. Because people always talk about, getting to the end of their lives and regretting that they didn't spend enough time with their loved ones or whatever, or that they spent so much time pursuing things that, weren't really, ultimate. So I have this constant discussion with Dorian about, because
Dorian's our oldest son. He's like 14.
He's got a very sort of, he wants to make a name for himself, and other people's opinions of him are very important to him, and yada yada yada. And I was telling him, I was like, you know what Tom Brady said when he won his first Super Bowl? That's it. And Kevin Durant said the same thing. He said, I thought there was going to be something else.
Yeah.
These guys, they dedicate themselves to, it's a religion. Tom Brady actually has a video special called The Religion of Sports. And so it's like, I admire the hell out of Tom Brady. I love his leadership skills. I think he's the greatest athlete ever in history. But at the same time, it's like, you got kids, man. You got a wife. You got, I'm sure he spends time and all the rest of it. But you just wonder, like, what at the end of all of this, when he's about to go into the next world, are you going to be, how significant are those trophies really going to be to him? I mean, that's honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
All I can know is what I would feel if I was him, and I had to learn that, because I had these set of things that were important to me, and I had to justify my own existence because of the miraculous circumstances of when I was a baby and that whole situation. So I always had these markers of what it would be for me to be a significant.
He was supposed to die when he was a baby, and also he was never supposed to be able to have kids, and he has 5.
Right.
So
right. So all these, so that's great, and then you hear like, oh, like you were here for a purpose, blah blah blah, and and my mom would say everybody's here for a purpose, but you're really, really here for a purpose. And, on the one hand, it was great because it gave me a lot of hope, as a kid. But on the other hand, when I hit about 18, 19, I began to start feeling like, wait a second, like I got to do something significant with my life here. Because if I don't, I'll be a complete waste and I'll be a disappointment and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So once I hit 18, 19, I started having this real panic. Every time a birthday would go by and I felt like I hadn't done anything. So I had to... So it ended up making me make certain decisions to where I was like, this is going to affect the world, literally. So I'm going to do this. And then even locally, I'm like, I'm going to find the hardest place to do X, Y, and Z thing. And I did it. And it's like all these things. And... I just hit a point, a couple of years ago when I was just like, man, I don't care about... It's not that I don't care about changing the world well, I definitely stopped caring about changing the world the way I was changing the world, or participating in changing the world. Say it that way. And then beyond that, even the local stuff and doing stuff that, was, literally almost impossible based on the numbers, what we were able to accomplish. And it was like, yay, I did all that stuff. So it's like, yay, now I'm significant. And it was just like, I just hit a moment where I didn't care about any of it, and I just wanted to be with my family, and at the time it was just me and the kids, you know, for a stretch, and I was like, screw it, it'll just be me and them, and we'll trudge our way through the wilderness, and then of course, you know, you came along, and you know, I'm very, very grateful that you decided to jump on. So now my life is about you guys, you know, and being around you guys, and you know, I feel very fortunate to be able to have gotten all that out of my system,
right,
and be able to make that peace with myself that, yes, I'm gonna do something significant, but it's in the lives of the people in this house, and even though I've probably, you know, affected probably a couple dozen people outside of this house, that's great, and that's significant, and then there's things where it's like, you know, yeah, you did things from the world, but you know, time will tell whether or not those were actually really good things. Mm-hmm. You know, right now, I don't know. Wow. So anyway, you know, like, it's just really crazy, you know, and it's weird because some of the stuff is like, you know, like, nobody will, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there'll be a certain group of people that know, and then everybody else, you know, but whatever, and then you almost find your significance in that, like, ooh, I'm part of this, you know, nobody knows, you know, and then there's a lot of guys that like risk their lives just so they could say that. Just a weird, and I don't know if it was necessarily insecurity for me as much as it was, again, it was this big, like, I had this thing hanging over my head, man. Like, you got to do something significant to justify why you're alive. Anyway, my point is to say, you know, I don't know, I just feel like being around you guys and doing the man study with the boys and the conversations that I have with the girls and things like that, and just being with you and losing in Fortnite with you, things of that nature. I just find a ton of satisfaction in that, and I find a ton of, like, peace, you know, in all of that I haven't had in a long time. So now, if I went from where I am now to the end of my life, and like, this was my life, you know, and I just had you and Oreo and the kids.
It's our 9-month-old baby. And
more kids, inshallah, you know, and I could die feeling like, okay, I didn't waste, you know, I didn't waste any moments with people who were important to me. Like, that's always been a fear of mine, is about dying. Well, I never thought I was going to die old. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I never really did, but that was always a thing, like being on your deathbed and being like, I didn't spend enough time with my kids or whatever. But anyway, so that's where the song was taking me, you know, and then of course there's this Alzheimer's thing. It looks like I was the first to finally fade away from my grandfather's memories. Oh. So it looks like he's talking about his grandparents, because he talks about a female later on in the song.
How long until the day my memories of him finally fade away.
Right.
Yeah, so, dissolving into gray.
Yeah, so, which is crazy because it's true. It's like, you know, you try to hold on to things, but like, it's been close to a decade since my mother-in-law, you know. And like, I still remember her, I still remember her face and things like that, but there are a lot of memories that are like starting to fade out, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like...
You have an amazing memory too.
Yeah, I do. And so it's kind of a, you know, it's talking about the all in nature ends in tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, so...
Well, obviously, because we're Christians, this is not what I was thinking of when the song was playing, because I actually missed that first section. But because we're Christians, like, originally everything wasn't ending in tragedy, like in the garden, you know what I mean? But then once sin entered the world, and then it inevitably brings all kinds of stuff, the curse, yeah. But I didn't even see that beginning part. I just thought it was somebody that was dying that he didn't want to die. And that, like, when he was talking about...
well, that's still true.
Well, die. Yeah, I know, but I didn't think it had anything to do with Alzheimer's. Where does he talk about, like drugs, nothing can make it so that way you can't stop the inevitable, basically.
Yeah, no amount of money, drugs, or tears could keep her here.
Yeah. So just that idea, like, that it doesn't matter what you do. Like, if somebody's going to die, there's nothing that you can't bargain, you can't have money, you can't... I hate that idea. Because with everything else, if you have money, I mean, look at what they did with the voting. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have money, you can kind of make things go your way. And if you don't have money, you could think to yourself, if I had money, this would be different.
Yeah, the illusion of influence.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But when there's, you literally, that's not your call, and you're not, you know...
The day's written for you, it's written for you. Like, you're going, that's it.
Yeah. And I think that standing on the edge of that precipice with somebody that you love, and knowing that the time is come... Ugh. See, because have you had anyone kind of fade out?
Nope.
You never experienced that.
You just wake up and they're gone. That's usually...
Yeah. Yeah.
That's usually how it goes.
But...
And I hear you, as far as... I always think to myself, like, which is worse?
Yeah, I know. I think the same thing.
But obviously, But, it's always ironic anytime an artist says, what purpose did her suffering serve?
Because they created the song.
Because they created the song, and the person who got us to do the review said the song was very significant to them. And so from a Christian, it's like, bro, the purpose is that you wrote this song that has reached at least one person.
Right.
She says lyrically it's one of those songs that means quite a bit to me. So it's like, well, it reached her or him or they, right? Like, like that's the irony. And sometimes with an artist you can see it more clearly. Like, the Piper calls it the hidden smile of God. Where these horrible clouds of doom are in your life, but there's a smile behind it because he's got good intentions for it to help lots of people. So you can see it sometimes more clearly with an artist, because I could say, look, Propagandhi, whoever wrote those lyrics and went through that, this helped this person, and now we're doing a review, which is probably going to resonate with one person. And so it's like, well, it's, but I believe that this principle is in everybody's life. You don't have to be a famous musician or whatever.
Right. For
your pain and suffering to have a positive, meaningful effect, a deeply meaningful effect on the people around you.
Well, I think that because, generally speaking, people don't realize that there is value, like insurmountable value in every single individual person around them. So then you think, oh,
right.
So my life affected one person? Well, that's not very significant, and it's wildly significant because everything that we face changes us in some ways.
Right.
And it can change us for the good or it can change us for the bad, but both can be a lesson and a helping for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I think it's easy to see, like you said, this artist, because you're like, well, my word, he's probably touched thousands of people, who knows?
Right.
But, even your influence on one single person is significant because that one single person is so significant.
Right. Right. That's the thing. All of our, a lot of times people say, oh, you're a Christian. Well, why did God allow this? I say, I don't know. I don't know why he did. Mm-hmm. There are theological sort of grounding explanations. We're all under the curse, yada, yada, yada. But why the curse affects one person one way and not another, why Kobe ends up dying in this horrible, situation is, Vanessa Bryant, for all the trillions of dollars that she has.
Yeah.
loses her, husband and daughter on the same freaking day. It's just completely merciless. Merciless reality. And I was listening to one of the other guys. He lost his wife, and he said, I don't know what to do. I'm lost.
Oh, that's so sad.
And I just remember thinking, like, that would 100% be what would happen to me if I lost you in that way. And Gigi, like Zoe, the hair, and all
that.
I know. If I lost you and Zoe in the same day, I'd be completely lost.
Ugh.
I'd be completely and totally lost. So it's like, why that happened, and now it's the horrible reality that I'm infinitely more rich than she is now, though. And these horrible reversals that happen, why that happens, I have no idea. I just know that God has good intentions behind it. Mm-hmm. And that there's a smile behind all of that. It's interesting listening to Lewis.
Yeah.
And I've been on a Lewis binge and listening to The Great Divorce, and it's talking about people in the afterlife and things like that. And you've got people who are basically in heaven trying to get people to come, and the people are just nasty in there because they came from hell, and the good ghosts or spirits are trying to get them to come to heaven. And, and like these people are nasty, they're rotten, they're saying all these types of crazy things, and like it doesn't affect these people's joy at all. Like they're just like, like they're not gonna let those people's misery. Basically, Lewis said, we're not gonna let you emotionally blackmail us out of ultimate joy because you decided to remain miserable. But it's just like that
message.
Well, it's just what strikes me in every single, because there's like 9 interviews in the book. Like what strikes me, and it's one of those things I listen to over and over again. It just strikes me as like how their joy is just indestructible. It's like it's unassailable. Like even when the person's being completely irrational and insulting and like, you would have shined my shoes back on earth, and the guy's like, I'll shine your shoes now. Just come with me to heaven. Everybody will shine your shoes. Come on. And that childlikeness where kids, Johan is kind of like the most like that. He'll just laugh.
Yeah.
And so it just, when I think about, and it's crazy because
Johan's our 11-year-old.
Talk about all these human tragedies, in our side of the world. It's like, oh my God. And then like the first guy that talks to, he comes down and he's this glorious, redeemed spirit or whatever. And the guy that came out of hell was just like this regular, he was like the boss at a factory or something like that. And again, Lewis has a sort of version of hell that I do. It's sort of this cold, dingy place where you're alone in your own misery and whatever. And then they get on this bus and they go there, and so the factory boss worker had just come out of hell, and then this redeemed, beautiful, glorious guy comes down from the mountains to try to bring him up to the mountains, and the guy goes, wait a second, what about poor Jack? The factory worker says to the glorious, what about poor Jack? He's like, yeah, Jack's there. He says he sends his love, and he's like, you killed him. He's like, yeah, I did. He's like, you were a murderer. He's like, yeah, I was. And but me and Jack are cool now. Everything's good. And it's just like this very like and of course the factory worker's like, you But my point is
does he not want to go anywhere with him after that?
He wants nothing to do with him because he's so busy judging, the guy that he can't see his own
issue.
And the guy's like, well, you made life for me and Jack a living hell, man. You were a terrible boss. You were mean. He's like, don't you dare lecture me. He's like, I'm not trying to lecture. Can we just go to the mountain? He's trying to get this guy to go to heaven. The guy, you won't have any part of it. Because he's like, you're a murderer. And
my gosh.
He's like, yeah, I was. And me and Jack. And it's just like, I just wonder sometimes, like, when all this, like, is over, like, we'll just look at everything and go, oh! Like,
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that book has been very, very good for my soul. It's been giving me a lot of hope, even though a lot of the conversations have been dismal because the majority of the people decide they want to go back to hell. which is very interesting. But anyway, I think most of us are going to find our way, inshallah. But it's a very, very good song, and I love it when people can take the things that have really caused them a lot of emotional pain and suffering and anguish, and turn it into something positive.
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
share that with the rest of us. But at the end of the song, he comes to a conclusion.
Yes.
That without love, breathing is just a ticking of, and then it ends. And
Yeah, because that brings it back to the ticking up back up here.
right, because
An unwinding clock counting down the time it takes for you to comprehend the sheer magnitude of
Right.
every single precious breath you've ever wasted.
yeah, so
We need to have love.
Yeah.
That's kind of reminds me of the Bible where it talks about, 1 Corinthians 13.
yeah. Without
that
love,
where you're
you have,
thinking?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was also thinking about Ecclesiastes, where Ecclesiastes starts out very nihilistic. Everything's vanity, 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 and then by the end of the book, the guy basically says, just love God and just do your best, and that's how you create meaning in your life, And so, like, he's saying, man, at the end of the day, love hard, love is the best you can, and that is what's gonna create meaning around the small window that we all have with each other. And I'm glad that he came to some sort of a conclusion. You know what I mean? Like a way out of the nihilism that can. And I think that's why a book like Ecclesiastes is in the Bible, because like God knows like the effect of the curse is absolutely disheartening, and it's painful, and it takes all the weight out of life, and it creates a bunch of emptiness. And so to be able to find some way to architect some sort of transcendent meaning and value in our life is necessary to live. And a lot of people, if you're in a situation where you're finding a very, very difficult time to try to build some meaning around your life and what you've done and your contribution in the world, like that's a very, very dangerous place to be. And so that's why like there's some bands and some songs that we will not review.
Right, exactly.
Because it's the artist's stated intention that he wants to destroy people. So we're not going there.
Right.
Because music is extremely powerful. But I loved what he did here. So what do you give the song?
I'm going to go with a 9.2.
It is a 9.7 for me. Shout out to Bloody Voodoo Dolls. It's a very interesting name. Kind of spooky. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.